justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound.
Good morning and welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Marietta, Georgia. Guys, Bruce, singers, magnificent. The beat is upbeat and the song was wonderful. Thank you, and thank you. I am Ed Cosper, and I'm a ministry associate for worship. I sing in the choir. I participate in the COVID pandemic team and our racial justice team, along with a few other committees here at Emerson. We are a non-credo congregation, and all are welcome here. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we welcome a wide variety of theological and spiritual beliefs. We honor the inherent worth and dignity of each and every person. You are welcome here. For those of you who may be joining us for the first time, a special welcome. And to those who are returning after an absence, we say, hello, dear friend, and welcome home. We hope you will be nourished in heart and mind by our worship service today. Today, we are excited to kick off our first ever virtual committee fair. It begins at 11 a.m., and all you have to do is just click on a link listed in the order of service. Emerson is a vibrant community because of vibrant people. But we need your passion and talents to keep Emerson shining. Multiple breakout rooms will allow you at this fair to explore the opportunities within our community. Committee chairs and volunteers will be available and prepared to give details and about what their committees do and also to answer your questions about their group. Psst. I also heard something about really valuable door prizes just for attending. Just saying. For other activities, please refer to the order of service, the weekly notebook, the Emerson calendar, our Emerson Facebook page, our Emerson website, and our new ministry messages on Friday mornings. See, there's another opportunity for you to help out here at Emerson as we try to build a better community of communication and all different types of communication. Plus, how do we let others outside our community know about us? So now I'd like to go and do the chalice lighting. Our chalice lighting this morning affirms our monthly theme, which is renewal. From our separate joys and struggles, we come here to find the blessing of renewal. To follow, to lead, to teach, to learn, we are renewed. To join in the dance, to catch our breath, we are renewed. To give generously and receive gratefully, we are renewed. And now, if you just take a moment, greet those near you, near and far, and in the spirit of community, use the online chat by offering our congregation our congregational affirmation. We need not think alike to love alike.
Thank you, Ed, and good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Reverend Deborah Bennett, and it is a joy, it is a delight, it is the thing I most enjoy doing, and that is being the called minister here at Emerson and welcoming you this morning to our worship. Thank you for coming from wherever you are, near and far, and at whatever time you happen to be joining us. It is truly for you that we are here this morning. Now, it is a blessing beyond blessings to be part of a conscious community of like-hearted others. We may not all think alike, but we can join together as a people who recognize that our hearts are truly called to open to the great expanse of this human experience. It's a blessing to be part of a community of people committed to growing, people who are dedicated to working for equity and justice, and who have decided to set aside this illusion of separateness the best we can and recognize the interconnectedness of all of our lives. Thank you for being those people. All of you, thank you. Well, you know, we have this wonderful service for you planned today. We're just getting going, so I'm going to invite you to grab that second cup of coffee or tea and settle in, get the pillows just right, and get comfy and join us. Bruce, are you comfy this morning?
I am very comfortable.
You're very comfortable? We'd like to have a mic on Bruce so we can hear how comfortable he is. Bruce tells us he is very, very comfortable. So, you know, Bruce, I'm kind of a little worried. I'm a little worried that when we all start getting back together, you know, in the sanctuary, folks are gonna not be too hip on the chairs because they're used to their comfy couches, and they're used to, you know, having their breakfast trays near them and all that other kind of stuff going on. Are you worried about that too, Bruce? Bruce says yes. I don't know if his mic is working, but Bruce is up there. So I'm kind of envisioning that maybe we would end up taking the seats out and put sofas in. What do you think?
Sofas sound good to me.
So sofas are a good idea. And then there'd be all these pillows all over the place, which could kind of be messy, but you know what I'm thinking?
A nap.
Well, Bruce said a nap, but I'm actually thinking, imagine the amazing game of lava we can play after service every week. Lava? You've never played hot lava?
Oh, the floor is lava.
Yeah, the hot lava game. Yeah.
I'm very good at it.
Okay, good. Well, Bruce said he's very good at playing hot lava, so we will look into that. But hopefully you're comfortable now from wherever you are, so here comes our service. Today we are talking about renewal. We're talking about renewal of community. The renewal of both our commitment to community and that renewal that we receive from community, because it takes both. We are each here this morning because something called us to be here. And I wonder, what was that for you? What called you to click in this morning, to tune in, to be part of this community in some way? Well, this morning I'm going to start with this lovely piece by Starhawk, who talks all about community. Thank you, Starhawk, for this amazing piece. She says, "We are all longing to go home to someplace we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned, that we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community, somewhere where there are people to whom we can speak with passion, without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength. Strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. a circle of healing, a circle of friends, some place where we can be free. So please join your voices with us this morning in this circle of community for our opening hymn. I welcome and thank our hymn singers this morning, Gail Passo and Jeffrey Jacoby, and we're going to join in singing Here We Have Gathered. Please join us. Let your neighbors hear.
Here we have gathered side by side, circle of kinship, come and step inside. May all who seek here find a kindly word. May all who speak here feel they have been heard. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Here we have gathered, called to celebrate days of our lifetime, matters small and great. We of all ages, women, children, men, infants and sages, sharing what we can. Sing now together this our heart's own song. Life has its battles, sorrows and regret, but in the shadows let us not forget. We who now gather know each other's pain. Kindness can heal us. As we give, we gain. Sing now together this our heart's own song.
Thank you. I think I could hear some of you. Thank you. Whoop. Oh. Oh goodness. Wait, what is that? I'm hearing some sounds. Children, I think I'm going to need you. So parents, if your children aren't watching, go gather them quick. They're not going to want to miss this. Children of all ages, gather around, gather around. I have a story. I want to tell you a story this morning of what happened one day to Little Red Hen and her friends. Now, it's not what you may think, so just join me. You see, Little Red Hen lived in a barnyard. She was happy. She was a happy hen, and she spent most of her time dancing about the barnyard in her pickety-pick fashion, scratching everywhere for worms and really enjoying herself. She looks like she's enjoying herself, right? Well, one day, Little Red Hen found a small bunch of seeds. They were wheat seeds, and Little Red Hen knew exactly what to do. She was tired of eating worms all day, so she decided she's going to make her some bread. But it would take much more than a few little wheat kernels to make her bread. So she set out to plant the seeds so that they will grow into a lot more wheat that she could use to make her bread. Now, knowing that there was a lot of work to do in front of her, the Little Red Hen looked around the barnyard to see who may help her with the task of preparing the soil and planting the seeds. First, she found Pig. Now, I'm going to wait a second so that our AV team can be sure to get the barnyard. Oh, yeah, there's Pig. Pig was happily tossing and turning in the mud. And she saw Cat, who was stretched out and napping in the sun. And then she spotted Cow, who was barely moving as she lazily chewed some grass. And the Little Red Hen asked,
"Who will help me plant the wheat?"
Yes, she needed to prepare the soil to plant the wheat, and Pig glanced up, not wanting to leave his cool mud, rolled over, and he snorted.
Girl, I ain't that kind of pig.
Oh,
You can't get me in the mud. I mean, not I.
Pig said, not I. And Cat, only a little awake, yawned and meowed.
Not I.
And Cow, barely glancing back at the hen, mooed.
Not I.
Yeah, not I.
Well, I will do it myself. I
Said-
will plant the wheat.
And that's exactly what the little red hen did. The little red hen joyfully worked the soil and planted the seeds. And then she went about her duties through the long summer days, scratching for worms and feeding her chicks. All the while, Pig was just focused on tossing and turning. And Cat stretched and took long naps, and Cow just stood virtually still, eating grass. Finally, the wheat was tall enough to harvest, and Little Red Hen called out to her companions.
Who will help me cut the wheat?
Yeah, well, Pig rolled over and he snorted.
Not I.
Yeah, he said, not I again. And Cat yawned and meowed
Not I.
and said, not I too. And the cow, barely moving.
Not I.
Yeah, she mooed, not I.
Oh, well, I'll just do it myself then.
And she did. So once the wheat was cut, she needed to get some help getting all that wheat to the miller. So again, and very hopeful still, she called out,
Who will help me take the wheat to the miller to be ground into beautiful flour?
well, as usual, Pig just snorted and rolled over. Not I, he said, and Cat yawned and meowed.
Not I.
Yeah, not I, she said, and Cow, barely moving, mooed. Not I. So the little red hen, looking, I must admit, rather discouraged by this point, said,
I guess I'll take it to the miller myself.
yeah, and she did. Only this time she wasn't feeling so cheerful about the fact that her friends continued to not help her. So carrying the sack of wheat, she trudged off to the distant mill. And there she ordered it ground into flour, and when the miller brought her the flour, she walked slowly back the way to her barnyard. But you know what? She didn't have her pickety-pick dance step on at all. After this really strenuous day, Hen retired to her slumbers earlier than usual. She was feeling a little down. I'm sorry, Hen. She was feeling alone, too. And you know what? The next day, she could barely get out of bed. And even as she sleepily half opened her eyes, she realized that today was the day that she must somehow make the bread. So after she pulled herself up, she thought, I'll ask one more time. So she hunted down Pig, Cat, and Cow, still with just a tiny bit of hope that they would surely help her. She sang out,
Will you help me bake the bread?
alas, for Little Red Hen, once more her hopes were dashed, for Pig rolled over and snorted.
Not I.
Yeah, not I. He's just so busy. He liked that mud bath. And Cat yawned and meowed and stretched.
Not I.
Yeah, she was busy taking a nap, and Cow barely moved and moved. Not I. So the little red hen once more, and with great weariness this time, said,
I will make the bread myself.
So tired and filled with defeat, the little red hen kneaded the dough, molded it, and placed it in the oven, all by herself. All the while, Pig kept rolling over, and Cat kept stretching and sleeping, and Cow kept chewing. Now, this is the point in the story we come to the present moment. In this moment, a delicious odor wafts upon the autumn breeze, and everyone in the barnyard begins to sniff the air with delight. Pig pulls himself up out of the mud, and Cat wakes up. And Cow lifts her head up for the first time in probably years and sniffs around. with delight. And they all make their way to the kitchen, socially distanced, of course. But when they get to the kitchen, a surprise awaits them. They're shocked. The kitchen is a mess. There is flour here and there and everywhere, and dishes are stacked up. And there, under the table, fast asleep, is Little Red Hen, completely exhausted. She was even snoring. The three friends look at each other. First, they're in shock, but slowly they recognize what was going on. Cat puts her paw up to her mouth. And Pig and Cow and Cat know exactly what to do. And so very quietly they get to work, cleaning the Little Red Hen's kitchen. Shh, don't wake up, Little Red Hen. They sweep and they mop and they scrub the counters and they even clean out the refrigerator. And when the time is right, they gently remove the freshly baked bread from the oven. And they place it on the windowsill to cool. And they set the table. Stirred by the wonderful smell of the bread, which is now uncovered on the table, Little Red Hen awakes. She can hardly believe her eyes. What's this? What's this, she says.
Oh my goodness!
And then Pig oinks.
Oink, oink, please forgive us. We have been terrible friends.
Pig recognizes they have been terrible friends, and Cat adds,
We have. We were just going to let you do all the work and enjoy the bread when it was done.
Little Red Hen pauses for a moment, hearing their apologies, and with a tear in her eyes, she says to her friends,
And I owe you an apology because I should have shared this job with you.
yeah, she accepted their apology, but she said that she had to apologize as well because trying to do it yourself was not being a good friend.
Well, I guess we all had a learning experience today. Bread is tastiest when made from the efforts of many, not just one.
And Cal was so right. Cal said that bread is always tastiest when baked from the efforts of many, not just one. And that made them all so happy. And Little Red Hen began her pickety-peckety dance, and all the animals joined in. They were so cute animals. And they sat down and had the best bread they had ever had. And the crowd cheered for our barnyard. Let's join together in our song of dedication. Thank you, barnyard animals.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind and fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. Thus do we promise to each other.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lane LaFay, and I serve as a member of Emerson's Pastoral Care Team. The Pastoral Care Team members are available as listening ears and caring hearts to support you during challenging times. You can contact us at our email address, pastoralcare@emersonuu.org. At this time in our service, we pause to share personal joys, sorrows, and concerns of our Emerson community. Each Sunday, we light a vigil bowl. Its light represents the light of hope for peaceful resolution of all conflicts on our planet, and it honors all dedicated people who serve us, including those on the front line of the COVID-19 virus battle. Reverend Deborah will light our candles today as I share these joys and sorrows with you. Anne Atherton fell several weeks ago and was injured, but she is feeling better. She misses everyone at Emerson and welcomes well wishes in cards and notes. Her address is in our Emerson directory. Anne has sent many cards to Emersonians over the years, and it would be great to return the favor. We know that there are joys and sorrows left unspoken today. As Reverend Deborah lights candles for them, please feel free to speak aloud the name of anyone you are holding closely in your heart this morning. Let us all send our heartfelt, caring intentions to all people everywhere by offering the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. The words are projected here and also printed in your order of service. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May they be free from harm and suffering. May they be well in body, heart, and mind. May they be at peace. Blessed be.
We thought it might be nice to share a little bit about it, and it was chosen for this morning's service. Kol Nidre, which translates to all vows, is an Aramaic declaration that opens the evening service on Yom Kippur this evening, the holiest of the high holy days of the Jewish faith. At Rosh Hashanah, worshipers are instructed by God to use the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to reflect on actions over the previous year, ask for forgiveness from others whom they might have wronged, and from God, and to look forward to a better year. The Kol Nidre prayer is a call to enter into the final days of repentance. As a Jew, it inspires me to move forward positively and optimistically. For just a moment, I am able to reunite with my Jewish heritage and ancestors, to remember what it means to be a Jew and what God expects of me. Not to be as great as Moses, but to be as great as Gael. This morning's setting of Kol Nidre was composed by Max Bruch in 1880. Bruch was a Protestant with an interest in Jewish folk music, and this music for cello and orchestra has become a beloved and famous piece of concert repertoire. It is based on two themes of Jewish origin, with one clearly imitating the voice of the synagogue cantor. It was never Bruch's intention to compose Jewish music, only to let it influence his own. He wrote, "Even though I am a Protestant, as an artist I deeply felt the outstanding beauty of these melodies, and therefore I gladly spread them through my arrangement." This morning we are privileged to have Tara Seswal here, playing Max Bruch's Kol Nidre.
What a gorgeous piece of music. Thank you, Tara, so much. That was just touching. Last week we placed some apples and honey on our ritual table to recognize the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and the pagan ritual of Mabon, the celebration of harvest and the equinox. And today we honor the holy day of the Jewish people, Yom Kippur, by adding white cloth as a symbol of purity to our table. This is the time in the Jewish tradition for forgiveness, but of course forgiveness is not unique to the Jewish faith. And other religions and other faiths, including our own, encourage us to take time to reflect on our wrongdoings and the need to offer and receive forgiveness. Living in community, we often have the opportunity to recognize when we have hurt another or when we have felt hurt by another. And it is a source of great strength when we are able to recognize these hurts, ask for and grant forgiveness, and then begin again in love. So I'm going to invite you now to join us in our own ritual of forgiveness. We're going to take a moment and do a reflection, and then we'll share in a call and response hymn. So please allow yourself this time, maybe create some quiet space if it hasn't been so quiet so far in the service for you. It can really be healing to give yourself some time in your week to have this quiet moment of reflection. Perhaps close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you, finding a comfortable place to sit. Maybe you want to have just soft focus, focusing on something very softly. But whatever you do, allow your breath to become full and your focus to draw inward. I'm going to ask you to allow 2 scenarios from your life to come into your mind. The first, please think of a time when you caused harm to another. Let that situation come to your mind and see the others who were involved. Maybe in your mind's eye, see where everybody was, see the words, hear the words that were spoken. And then begin to imagine what the others were feeling at that time, what their experience may have been because of what you said or did or didn't say or didn't do. Visualize them, imagine their experience. And in your own heart, if it feels right for you to do so at this time, ask for forgiveness. Imagine them receiving your request and responding to you with gentleness and with forgiveness. Perhaps offering them something. And then let that scene fade from your mind. And I'm going to ask you to think of another scene now. This time, think of a time when you felt harmed by another. So visualize that situation now and all of the people that were involved during a time where you felt hurt. Recall your own feelings of hurt or anger, perhaps betrayal, whatever feelings you were having at that time or that you may still be experiencing from this situation. And then imagine the person who hurt you coming to you and asking you for your forgiveness. In your heart, respond to them as you are able at this time. Offering them forgiveness if you can. And then let that scene fade and just settle back into your own heart in present time, taking in these words from Rumi, out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about it. Taking a breath, feeling your heart space. As you're ready, I'm going to invite you to open your eyes. And we're going to share in a sung affirmation, we begin again in love. Ed and I will speak the words, and then we invite you to join with our hymn singers in the response, which will be on your screen.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
Forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that we have struck out in anger and hurt one another.
We begin ourselves and each other.
We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For all the woulda, coulda, shouldas.
And each other.
We begin again in love.
For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Thank you. Forgiveness is such an important part of life and of living in community. Thank you all for joining in this ritual this morning. I hope it was healing for you at home as well. So there's this classic novel many of us have encountered in high school. It's about community. It's that story of what happens when a group of schoolboys are stranded on an island. Do you know the novel? Mm-hmm. It's the story of their descent into violence and brutality. Unable to support each other with respect and dignity, they instead create tribalism and fear. And it's a gruesome commentary on humanity. Now, you may have read The Lord of the Flies at some point, but you may not know, as I didn't until recently, that the novel actually has a real-life counterpart. A real event that played out, however, much differently than the novel's author would have us believe was inevitable. In the real story, a group of 6 boys set out on the ocean towards Fiji from Tonga. It was June of 1965. Now, in quick order, they find themselves caught in a storm and they're shipwrecked, stranded on an uninhabited small island. But instead of falling into brutality and conflict, these 6 teens discover that their survival is intimately connected to each other. Over time, they figured out how to start fire, they figured out how to build shelters, they started a garden, they caught fish. They learned how to survive together. They even made guitars out of coconuts and things to entertain themselves. All the while, they kept a fire burning to try to attract any notice of passing ships. 15 months go by. Their families grieve. They conduct funerals. They're convinced they will never see their loved ones again. And then one day, a passing fishing vessel sees smoke and decides to investigate and finds the 6 boys. Not only are they all alive and healthy, they are all still friends. In a recent interview, Mano Totu, who's one of the boys, he's now in his 70s, he recounts this experience saying, he says, "Our culture taught us to respect each other and to try to be loving to each other no matter how hard life is." Isn't that beautiful? The idea to love each other no matter how hard life is. And we all know life gets hard. Well, Emerson, Unitarian Universalist Congregation, is not an island, and you're not stranded here, although I know some of you might think that some days. Thank you, AV team. And yet, coming together in community does not give us the opportunity. It does give us the opportunity to practice. It gives us the opportunity to practice respecting each other and loving each other, no matter how hard it gets. In the opening words today, Starhawk tells us that community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to get done. That community is about arms that hold us when we falter, and that it's a circle of healing. Now, contrary to what I see playing out in the world, I still really think that fundamentally it is human nature to seek to come together in harmony. Okay, sure, going it alone has its appeal sometimes, right? I'm going to ask you a question. You can raise your hand if you want. How many times have you secretly been grateful that COVID has given you an excuse to not be with other humans? Anybody? And how many times have you been in the middle of a project with others when you wished you could just do the thing yourself and get it done? Guilty as charged. And yet, I maintain that something deep inside the human spirit calls out for an experience of connection, real, deep connection, not just surface connection. I will tell you, being a hospital chaplain and sitting with people as they were in the dying process and sitting with their families, 100% of the time, the conversation would always revolve around connection. Connection experienced and connection opportunities lost. At the end of life, so many people realize that connection is what it was all about. Now, I'm going to say to you, those of you listening right now, that I'm confident that you have heard this call to connection, and you've heard it in a way that's even deeper than what can be satisfied with family or with social connections. Because I'm going to wager that if you're listening to this service right now, that you felt some kind of call or a pull to explore how a faith community may help you answer the longing for connection. You have some level of the congregational call, or you wouldn't be here. I once heard a saying that was shared often in a Buddhist group that I was part of. They would often say, "The next Buddha is a Sangha." Now, in Buddhist and Hindu circles, a Sangha is referred to as those who join together, dedicated to supporting each other in developing awareness. So this saying suggests that the next Buddha, meaning the next supreme teacher of wisdom of humanity, right? So the Buddha is the teacher of humanity. That next teacher, that next supreme teacher will come not in the form of an individual person, but that the supreme wisdom will come in the form of the group itself. The saying suggests that it takes all of us to know wisdom. One of us alone cannot fully understand the human journey. Now, I know many people are attracted to the Unitarian Universalist faith communities because that is what's promoted here. This idea that no one teacher or no one source of wisdom or no one set of beliefs holds the wisdom. And so many of us have been called here, have been drawn to a Unitarian Universalist setting. So now what? Here we are. So how do we engage in this call to connect as part of this Sangha, as part of this congregation? We can't just buy the book and think we're going to get the wisdom out of it. How many people are guilty of that? I have so many books. I kind of think like if I just buy the book, I got it, right? But you got to get the book off the shelf and you got to read it. And I think community's the same way. Just showing up is like buying the book. So how do we engage? So today I'm going to highlight what I think are the 3 calls to connection that many of us experience in life that brings us to a place like a faith community. So I'm going to invite you as I share these for you to notice which ones you feel most drawn to, which ones maybe you've avoided, and which ones maybe you want to engage with more fully in the future. If you happen to have paper beside you, feel free to pick it up and make 3 columns, because I'm going to ask you some questions and you can write the answers down, or you can just kind of visualize these columns as I'm going through this. So this first call I want to name is what I call the call to connect with self, to do our own self-inner explorations. This is that call that we have that says we need to nurture our own spirits, our souls, this inner quiet self. This is the call we hear that directs us to gaze within, to explore those big questions of life that move us. Questions like, who am I? What is truth? Why do I feel the way I feel? These are questions that only we can answer in the quiet of our own hearts. Now, a faith community can't do that work for us, but it offers us the opportunity to learn some tools for how to take that journey inward, how to listen to the answers that we find when we go there. This comes in the form of spiritual practices, whether it's something like meditation or qigong as we offer, or other spiritual practices. Sometimes it comes in the form of worship. Just sitting in worship is a time for some folks to really do that inner reflection. We have listening circles, compassion circles, all kinds of activities that invite us and help us learn how to listen deeply to the self. And this is this call to connect with self. It's why some of us come to a faith community. So the first question I have for you is this: in what ways are you answering that call to learn to nurture your inner self? So either write them down or visualize them in your head. What are the ways that you are answering your call to nurture your inner self? Now, the second call of connection that I think our faith community can answer is kind of maybe the most obvious one for some people. It's that call to be in service and in co-creation of the community itself. This is that call that asks us to help steward something, to be part of something, not just plug in, but actually help co-create something that becomes greater than ourselves. You know, it's easy to take a class, we do that all the time, we pay for something and we receive some class, some wisdom, something. But congregational connection invites us to not operate on this pay-to-play basis, but rather to offer our talents and our gifts and even do things that are challenging for us in service to the co-creation of the community itself. You know, at Emerson, everything from supporting the physical structures to leadership, fundraising, fellowship activities, there's so much that we do that help co-create and continue who we are. So my second question for you is this: what ways are you answering the call to connect in service with others for the stewardship of the community? How are you personally helping steward and co-create this community? So write those down in your second column. And some of you may be guests here today and feel that you aren't part of the community. And I'm going to challenge you that I think just if you're listening to my voice, that you indeed are part of our Emerson community. And just your presence here, your joining with us, is helping us co-create community. So write that one down on your column if that applies to you. Now, the third call of connection our faith community can answer is that call we have to connect and serve with the wider world. It is inevitable that as we look around with our open hearts into the world, we see the pain, we see the suffering, and we feel called to change it. And for many of us, we are hearing the call so loud right now more than ever, to reckon with our country's colonizing history, with reckoning with the racist systems of oppression that we have, to recognize the ways we have prioritized capital over people, to recognize the ways that we focus on the individual over the collective. So these are our reckonings that we are called to help change. And knowing our limitations and acting alone, answering the call to community becomes vital if we want to change the world. We need to do this work together. And this we do at Emerson in many ways, through our racial justice work, our LGBTQ plus justice work, immigration work, environmental work, and so many other ways. These are huge topics, but we need to work together to create change in the world. So my final question is asking you, in what ways are you answering this call to work with others to help change the world, to create the world you'd like to see, one of justice and peace and equity? So write those things down. So whether you wrote them physically or you're just imagining, I want you to imagine those three columns. So we have the column of how we're nurturing our connection to self, the column of how we're nurturing our co-creation, our connection to the community and our ability to co-create, and the column that speaks to how we're being effective in the world. So I want you just to notice, are they balanced? Is there one area that, maybe there's a lot of things in one column and not so many things in another column? It's very typical that a lot of us navigate the world that way. And sometimes we can barely notice that we have everything in one column and little in the others. But it doesn't work well. And the little red hen showed us that, right? So she was so focused on getting the work done by herself, she exhausted herself. But then the other animals, dear old cow and pig and, wait, who was the other one? Oh, cat, yeah, that cat. Yeah, they were just so focused on their own inner work, I think, or relaxing, right? But that didn't work for them either until they learned to adjust how they were being. And sometimes I'll say that even in our work in the world, this vital work that we're doing right now, it can become so outwardly focused and overwhelming that we get exhausted, that we deplete our inner reserves if we are not also filling them up. The congregational call and response is a beautiful dance. It's this dance between call to inner, call to community, call to the world. And it's in a congregation that I like to say we highlight those 3 areas and support those 3 areas so that you have opportunities to nurture all 3 of them. And together, that's the congregational call. Mono, who lived on the island for 15 months, he tells this story that whenever 2 of them would get in an argument, that they had the common sense, he says, to separate from each other for a cooling period, even sometimes going to opposite parts of the island until they could come back together to calmly do their work. How wise were those men, right? Because we all know sometimes with all this congregational call and all this work together, it can get a little, well, we can become human, right, with each other. And when our humanness starts showing up, taking that step back, beginning again in love is so vital. Community's not always easy, but I truly believe that if we recognize our common call that has brought us here together, give each other lots of encouragement and also compassion as we move through the spaces together, I believe that answering this congregational call will help save us personally and this little island that we live on, this island called planet Earth. So please, I send you blessings that may you listen to the calls of your heart. Listen to these calls, all of them, and then be fearless enough to answer them, to really respond in a way that feels healthy and whole for you. So blessed be this morning. Please join us as we sing our closing hymn. It is Break Not the Circle.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wonder at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but will the human bonds remain unbroken. Join in the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
As our worship service is nearing an end, we hope that you will be leaving feeling nurtured in heart, mind, with our time together today. We invite you to conclude your time of worship with one final act. And as you are able, please affirm your support for the sustainability of this congregation and the ongoing ministries that we share through a monetary offering. Reverend Deborah, if I could just say something real quickly right now. One of the things that I tend to do is I tend to see the order of service, and oftentimes I don't read each and every section of it. In other words, sometimes I don't get all the messages that are there. One is being able to go through and sometimes revisit that vision statement to be a radically inclusive, open-minded, beloved community that is vibrant, that is a vibrant source of peace, hope, and healing. Or that piece that is the mission statement that says, seek truths, celebrate differences, act on our Unitarian Universalist principles, and inspire the best in each of us and serve the world. And that piece that I sometimes skip over, it talks about our pledge report. And I said this week I was going to read that part. And I'm asking that each of you, in your order of service, just take a little time to read that pledge report. We're at about 25% of our fiscal year, 2021. We're about 18% in our pledge commitments. So I would just ask that you take a look at that and just reflect that this community needs both monetary and our wholehearted participation in activities around our community. So, Reverend Deborah, I'm sorry if I stepped off script a little bit too much, but I just wanted to share that that's an important part of this community. I would tell you that, when we give, we say yes to something that we value. We sincerely hope that you have found great value here today and will return again and again to worship and to join us as a community working for positive change in the world. Thank you so much for all you do to make Emerson a truly beloved community. You can text GIFT, GTB, or pledge to 678-553-9485 to give. We thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Ed, for that. I'm going to close with some short words, and then, Ed, I'm going to invite you out to do a power extinguishing of our chalice, because we have a community fair at 11 o'clock, and my clock tells me it is 10:55. Here's our closing words from Coretta Scott King. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. So please join us at 11 o'clock after we extinguish our chalice and celebrate this beautiful service. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, AV team. Thank you all who participated. It was a beautiful service, and we will see you at 11 o'clock for some fun. And the door prizes are actually like over-the-top awesome, so you definitely got to get there. Take it away, Ed.
The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world. This is by the Reverend Robert F. Gray.
We extinguish this chalice.
We extinguish this chalice,
but not the light of truth,
not the light of truth,
the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world and off into the committee fair together
until
again.
We are together again.
In a moment. See you there, Ed.
In a moment, Flash.
All right. Take it away, Bruce. Thank you all.